Mr. Wells fails to understand the premise of selective pressure. The drought selected for a hardier beak to crack harder nuts. Thus, selective pressure drove beak girth one way. When the drought ended, better food was available, so a more versatile, mid-size beak was selected for. This drove beak length back. Both of these are examples of directional selective pressure. Evolution did happen. Speciation did not. To get speciation, pressure must be placed only on the middle ground. This is called disruptive selection. Let's say we have a localized drought such that longer beaks are preferred in one area and shorter, stronger beaks are preferred in another. This allows both extremes of beak length to live, and by selecting against the mid-length beaks, the variants are pushed apart from one another. Eventually, they get so pushed apart that they can no longer hybridize. That is speciation. The 99 article was not misleading. It was showing how large an effect small environmental changes will have on a population, and predicting, based on that effect, how quickly speciation could occur given the right selective pressure. That it shifted back so quickly would only serve to reiterate the original point. The eighth icon is four-winged Drosophila. His arguments are truly absurd. They frighten me with their absurdity. He calls into question whether or not there is a connection between genetic mutations and morphological mutations. I'm actually stunned. Protein synthesis is very well documented. A set of 3 nucleotides in a gene codes for a certain amino acid. If one of these 3 nucleotides change, it may well code for a different amino acid. Different proteins don't always work the same way. Perhaps this protein slows down the growth of a set of cells along the fly's back. Without as much regulation of these cells during development, perhaps the fly grows a new set of wings. A small change can cascade and make several large changes. Genetic mutations and morphological mutations are solidly linked through mountains of evidence. The ninth icon is horses. Wells thinks horses evolved in a directed manner. His argument is that the extinct side branches don't indicate that it evolved. He brings up an analogy of a cattle drive. The cattle are directed, but every now and then there's a stray. To which I reply, why must it be driven by a cowboy? Perhaps it's a herd of buffalo. A few go stray, a few strays survive, and no direction is ever actually applied. In order to argue design, Mr. Wells needs evidence of design. Without it, his wheels are spinning in the mud. The 10th and final icon is the descent of man. Wells quote mines a few anthropologists, then brings up Piltdown Man saying that scientists thought it was proof of descent of man from ape, then disproved it. He fails to mention how it was originally disproven. Many skeletons were found of human ancestors, and Piltdown Man didn't fit in anywhere. Poor guy. As such, this bit of false evidence was originally discarded on the basis of an overabundance of real evidence. It was later found that the reason why it didn't fit in is because it was, in fact, a fake. The overabundance of real evidence is never mentioned by Mr. Wells. Oh hey, speaking of bad teaching material, remember Chapman, that guy from the Discovery Institute? He actually came up with a lesson plan to teach 10th grade students. It begins with an assessment of the students' critical thought of Darwin's evolution. It asks the students for a few definitions: theory, biological evolution, macro and microevolution, the sample definitions, and likely what the teachers will be comparing the responses to, were as follows. Theory: a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. In other words, they're teaching the students that scientists just make the shit up as they go. Biological evolution: changes in the genetic composition of a population through successive generations. Close, but no cigar. Under this definition, evolution wouldn't exist for anything that hasn't changed in a while. Macroevolution: large-scale evolution occurring over geologic time that results in the formation of new taxonomic groups. Not quite. Macroevolution is a term used rather often by creationists, typically referring to the divergence of a new species. Technically, a breed or a subspecies is a taxonomic group. According to their definition, evolution within the species would still be macroevolution.